Welcome to Books on Point. It was the essay heard around the world, Milton Friedman's The Social Responsibility of Business is to Increase Its Profits, laid out arguably the most consequential economic idea of the latter half of the 20th century. 50 years ago, he published the seminal essay in the New York Times magazine that is still hotly debated in business and policy circles. Today, Books on Point revisits the legacy of the so-called Friedman Doctrine with Temba Nolutshunga, who is the director at the Free Market Foundation. Temba, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you also indeed, and thank you those who will be listening.
So let's talk about your thoughts on that essay. 50 years later, are there parts of it that still resonate, or are there parts of it that are not particularly useful in this time and era?
Well, very briefly, I can state that Milton's ideas, as reflected in his seminal work, Free to Choose, are still very much relevant to this day. Milton Friedman cast a giant shadow on the political, socio-economic, intellectual landscape throughout the 20th century, and this still resonates to this day. Very briefly, what Milton Friedman did was to demystify the marketplace, demystify economic freedom, demystify free markets, demystify capitalism in a way that every person could really understand what the free market capitalism was about. And at the core of which is the concept of the freedom to choose. Now, the way he described this was that people, first of all, have a right to say what they want, to choose what they want. People should be free, are free to compete with anybody else in whatever sphere of economic endeavor, and especially in the economic arena. And people, there is voluntary exchange, and people exchange whatever goods and services they have, on a voluntary free basis. And that was Milton Friedman. And he explained and demystified, as I explained, the free market concept, capitalism, in a very self-evident, axiomatic way that everyone could understand. One of the important things that he stated was the fact that the free market, capitalism, reflects human nature. It's human nature. It reflects human nature. It is not an ideology that is imposed from above by people from their high ivory ideological citadels. And it was just simply a state of affairs where people left their own devices to fuel their socio-economic goals in order to improve their circumstances. And
Temba,
hello?
If I may, interject there. Before I let you go, just a quick question. Do you find yourself wondering what Milton Friedman would think of CEOs of the 21st century, especially now, where a lot of them use their money and power to basically, support movements that, support racial equality or even political positions, as opposed to his primacy of shareholders and profits?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this part about income inequality, which has become an issue, would be really relevant to Milton Friedman. Because the thing is, Milton Friedman believes, and this is the case, this is the reality, this is what I believe also, this is what everybody would understand. We are all different people, differently endowed, we have our own diverse ideas, motivations, preferences and likes and dislikes and so on. And we are all endowed in different ways and so on. So Lionel Messi, for example, he kicks about a ball and he has become now a multi-millionaire in dollar terms.
Yeah.
And Muhammad Ali used to beat up people, and he earned billions and millions of dollars to become a millionaire. And so we're all differently endowed. And the thing is, to pursue the idea of income redistribution or income inequality is just a mirage that can never be attained because people are endowed differently.
Right.
This is what is so dynamic.
Temba, unfortunately, we are running out of time, but thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. That is Temba Nolutshunga, who's the director at the Free Market Foundation, reflecting on that seminal essay that was published by Milton Friedman 50 years later in the New York Times. But that's it from me. I'll be back next week, Thursday, with The Alternative Investor. We've got more news with Nompumelelo Siziba at the top of the hour. SABC News will be giving the National Coronavirus Command Council briefing on the regulations relating to the level 1 restrictions. And of course, we've got your weather details up next. It's a goodbye from me.